Hello guys, Clan TST. I know you guys have been waiting for the video that you guys asked me about the bamboo arrows. I actually did one yesterday, but I did record on the wrong format, so I'm gonna do it again. Finally, I was able to find the right format, and hopefully when this is done, I'll be able to download it to the YouTube. Anyway, just to get this started. To start off, what I normally do, I'm going to grab a shaft that's here. Take this bamboo shaft. These are purchased them from eBay. They're already been spined. These are supposed to be 40-45 spined. And once you get these shafts, if you have a spine tester, spine them again just to make sure, but not a big iffy. They've been working good with my horse bow, the ones I made. The main thing you have to look for, the thickest portion of the shaft, because bamboo has a natural taper to it. So you want to look for the thickest part of the bamboo, and you're going to use that as your front part of the arrow, where you're going to glue on the point. The thinnest part of the arrow, that's what you're going to use to make yourself knock. That way you're going to have a higher FOC on front. Makes sense? Once you do that, try to do some slight bending all the way around. Try to find the strongest part. Once you find the strongest part, right now it's on this side. That's the side I'm going to use as to lay on the shelf. That way it bends around the bow on the paradox. So I'll be cutting my knock right on that side. Before you start cutting the knock, you also need to seal it. Seal the fibers of the bamboo, because these shafts, to get them spined, they've been sanded down to be able to make them to the respective spine that we've been looking for. So you seal it up. I normally use something called Minwax. I'm going to grab it right here. This is what I've been using to seal the bamboo shafts. It's just a wipe-on polyurethane Minwax, very light. I use a terry cotton towel, or you can use some cotton balls, and just give it a two or three coats. One coat first, let it dry, and then put another coat, let it dry, and then I put a last one, let it dry for 24 hours. And this should get a good seal to your bamboo shafts. Once that's done, like I said, I start cutting the knock area, which I have my workstation right here. Very economical one. Probably I think it cost me like $40 on Home Depot. It has a mechanism here to open up. I have a little notch right here, and I use this rubber pad to protect the shaft. That way, when I clamp it, it doesn't damage the shaft. I put it inside here, clamp it down. Make sure it's nice and sturdy. And then I have a small little saw that I bought on Lowe's, which I kind of like this kind of brand, mini saw. Now before I start sawing, as you know, bamboo splits. So you need to tape down the bamboo. I use some electrical tape, and I tape down the shaft very tightly around here, right below where the end of my cut is going to be, and I just tape it down nice and tight. Once that's taped down, I start cutting. I'll make a line first to make sure that where I'm going to cut, I go down a straight line. That way nothing goes crooked. So I cut around, say, 1/4 inch down, maybe a little bit more. This one already has a notch that is already been started. I cut that down. Once I cut to the desired depth of the notch, I take it out and I grab sandpaper. Right now I'm using a 60 grit. You could use a 220 grit, but I'm using a 60 grit sandpaper. And what you want to do is grab your bow for whatever bow you're going to be using, because you know that every string has a different width, especially in the serving. So you want to make sure that when you finish your arrows and you nock it, your arrow fits in the serving and it's not too tight. Because as all you guys know, a knot that's too tight on the string, it can give you a bad release because it's too tight. And an arrow that's too loose on the string is going to fall off. So I have some sandpaper here. I normally do, I just put it inside the notch and I start standing down. And once in a while I take my bow, I knock it, I tilt it down where the arrow is hanging, knock down to see if it stays. If it stays, I do a tap test, which everybody knows already. Holding the bow, you tap the string. If the arrow falls down, perfect arrow. If the arrow doesn't drop after you tap the string, that means it's too tight. So I go back and sand a little bit more. Another thing I also do after I'm able to get the proper width of the notch in the nock, I take a knife. And what I do is I'm going to do a small taper right where the nock is. So I'm going to try to put in the video here where you can actually see it good. There it is. Right in that side, and I grab the knife and I cut right here and I make a small taper on both ends where it makes it a little narrow. That way it sits better on the nock point that you put on the string. Once you do that, then I take my taper tool, this right here, and I measure the shaft to make sure it's around 5. Because this shaft right now, since it's spined for a weak spine, it's slightly tapered only. The knot area I think is around 1/4 inch in diameter, and the front end of this arrow is around 5/16, maybe slightly less, but doesn't really matter. So I use a 5/16 insert. I insert it in the shaft, and just like sharpening a pencil, and this gives you a perfect 5 degree because this insert doesn't allow the shaft to wiggle. It's a 5/16 exact, and once it gets to the end of this block, it doesn't sharpen no more. That means it's perfect. It's a 5 degree. Once that's done, now I start working on the fletching area. I personally like to put the points first. For the points, for this time, I was using some Loctite epoxy gel. I did a small mixture on a little cardboard, and I put a little dab on the taper area of the shaft, and a little bit also on the inside of the field point. I insert the field point, get a couple twists. Once it's in there, I spin the shaft on the table on my hand to make sure that it spins steady. It's not wobbly, like out of balance. Bamboos are not lazily straight like a commercial arrow, so there is gonna be a very slight wiggle. But what you're trying to look for, what you don't want is the arrow to be dancing around your hand because the point is like very crooked. You want that point to be inserted as straight as possible. Once that's done, then you manage to get a perfect spin, or almost perfect spin, let it to dry. Then that's when I really start fletching my arrows. Here's one of the arrows I made. This is a 60-65 spine. This one has a 11/32 outside diameter on front and a 5/16 on top, so it has a pretty cool taper. As you can see here, I haven't been able to get some natural sinew yet, but I use this artificial sinew, and I wrap it right behind where the glue field point ends. I wrap it, and this is gonna act like if it was a footing, so it strengthens the arrow. And this, I tell you what, I've seen videos already, but I'm gonna make one myself since the videos that are around are from nobody around the clan. So I guess I'll make one myself, being part of the clan, and that way you feel confident that it's legit. I'm gonna be making a test comparing a carbon arrow, some Carbon Express Heritage 150. I'm gonna compare also some gold tip traditional, the 3555s, and I'm also gonna do a and with the bamboo shaft, which I'm gonna shoot them into a brick or concrete, and I'm gonna show you how strong these animals are. So I tie this up right here. Once I tie it up, I use Gorilla Glue, and I give it a light coat on the right on the outside of the sinew, and it gives it a hard seal. So it makes the sinew extremely hard. Once I do that, then I start fletching. I don't have no natural animal glue, high glue yet, so I use some normal what's that brand called? Oh, right here, the Platinum Tight Fletching Glue. I glue the fletching first. Once the feathers are glued on, then I take the artificial sinew and I start wrapping right at the end, at the valley of the knock. I start wrapping around to strengthen the knock area. That way it doesn't split if it gets a direct hit. I wrap it around 1/4 inch down, and then I do like a spiral. And then once I'm getting to the beginning of the feathers, I start wrapping again, and I cut some of the feathers off, so I leave just the quill exposed, and I wrap on top of the quill. Once I get around the quill, which you can see right here, then I start going in between the feathers, old school, the way primitive people used to do, all the way down. I know it's hard to see the actual sinew going down the shaft between the feathers, so it makes the feathers even more secured on the shaft all the way down. And then I keep wrapping here on the front of the feathers, and I give it like a 1/2 inch down of wrap. And I do the same thing. I grab some Gorilla Glue, give it a light coating around here and up here also as well, and it crystallizes the sinew and makes it extremely hard, very, very tough. Once that's done, the arrow is done. You got a complete arrow. Completely done. This I made it just with all turkey feathers, natural turkey feathers, all bird. And I wrapped this one with the natural color artificial sinew. What I did different was, on the knock area, I used a black color sinew. And this one, you can tell, you can see the separation of the feathers on this one very good, where I wrapped the sinew in between the feathers down the shaft. This one I use a black color just to give a contrast with the white. Makes it look pretty cool. You can see the valley of the knock is very pronounced. Right there, looks good. There we go. Wrapped it up, 1/4 inch down, and then I do like a spiral here, and then I start wrapping again into the quill to give it a stronger, secure bonding to the feathers. And you can see, and then this one here, you can actually see the black sinew wrapping in between the feathers very good, spiraling down. And then I finish up securing right here more, and then I do the same step with the Gorilla Glue. I give a light coating here with Gorilla Glue, and it makes it extremely tough. But yeah, this is pretty much the process. It's not hard. I think the hardest part about making bamboo shafts is the beginning of it. If you buy them raw, it's actually selecting the bamboo shaft. If in your area it grows. If not, buying it at Home Depot where they sell river cane, which is American type cane plant shoots. And the hardest part would be selecting the right diameter or the right shaft that's suited for an arrow, and hand straightening them